Retired Army Lieutenant General Edward L. Rowny, a hardline arms control advisor to 5 presidents who resigned from the military in 1979 to campaign successfully against the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty with the Soviets, died December 17. He was 100. The Fund for American Studies, where General Rowny had established a scholarship fund for students from Poland to learn about American democracy and free market economics, announced the death but did not provide additional information. A 1941 West Point graduate, General Rowny built his reputation as a seasoned combat officer. He commanded battalions in Italy during World War II, helped General Douglas MacArthur plan the 1950 landing on the Incheon beachhead during the Korean War and led a regiment in brutal winter combat. He later championed arming helicopters for battle, creating a sky cavalry that he helped implement in Vietnam for counterinsurgency operations. And he rose to quasi-diplomatic positions with NATO during the Cold War. Dubbed a scholar general by the New York Times, he began studying the Russian language and Soviet negotiating technique at Yale University in the late 1940s, experience that positioned him to play a meaningful role in U.S. nuclear policy making. General Rowny, who worked in arms control under every president from Richard M. Nixon to George H.W. Bush, became one of the most outspoken and controversial members of the U.S. team sent to Geneva to work on agreements over strategic, or nuclear, arms. He spent much of the 1970s as the Joint Chiefs of Staff's representative to the second round of strategic arms limitation talks, known as SALT II. In the ideological battle over negotiating positions and tactics, he worked with proponents of increased military spending, including future President Ronald Reagan, defense official Paul H. Nitze and Sen Henry Scoop Jackson, D. Wash, to defeat the SALT II treaty. The agreement imposed restrictions on the construction and deployment of intercontinental ballistic missiles and slowed proliferation of multiple nuclear warheads on those missiles. General Rowny was among those arguing that SALT II endangered American security and lacked enforceable verification provisions, allowing the Soviets in essence to cheat and bolster their insatiable drive for nuclear superiority. He said the Russians retained supposed first strike capabilities with the potential to destroy the American land-based missile force. The theory was adopted by many neoconservatives at the time, but many other scholars and specialists viewed the claims as exaggerated or dubious. General Rowny rebuked then-President Jimmy Carter and his fellow arms control colleagues for what he regarded as their weakness in the face of the Soviet threat. Americans were too pragmatic and success-oriented, he said, looking for a fast win against a ruthless adversary trained in long-term thinking. My problem is that the Soviets come from a country that has a lot of patience and plays chess, he told the Associated Press in 1982. I come from a country that has a lot of quarters and plays Pac-Manitoba. General